We've got to consider the water as an extraordinary blessing. In the beginning, there was the Creator. There was the Word. But before there was the Word, there was the water. Just about 2 years ago, decrypting Leonardo da Vinci's most famous drawing, which was really like a no-brainer once you had the other pieces of the puzzle. You know how you make a puzzle and you start filling in the pieces, and then all of a sudden now a picture starts to form, and then you can fill in other pieces because of that, right? Same thing with the real Da Vinci Code. So I want to share with you that a little bit. I've had a lot of questions about Oxy Silver. Best thing is a cooperative program, so it's your program too. You can go online to oxysilver.com, sign up as an affiliate. Essentially, it's a referral program, and we give you a $6,600 valued website for free. There's no hidden cost. There's nothing to buy. You got nothing to stock. In essence, no monthly fees. You can just basically refer your people to your website then, and they can basically buy it from you. And that way, I pray that we won't have too much trouble getting it from the States to here until we're able to get a manufacturing facility here. Otherwise, the other question, if you have urgencies right now, people that are having illnesses because of infectious diseases, there are other good silver hydrosols. Make sure it's a silver hydrosol, and you'll probably do pretty well with that as well. Again, they have the capacity to eliminate infectious diseases from planet Earth. The other store website is healthyworldstore.com, and that store has basically everything that I've got that I recommend, and so you can try that and see how that works for you. The other book that's been asked a lot about questions, what do we do, what do we do, what do we do, is Healing Celebrations. There's 5 steps that everything I'm going to share about tonight, based on water, has to do with every aspect of those 5 steps. Number 1 is detoxification. We're all polluted. We've all got garbage, petrochemical garbage in our bodies. You want to clean that out, obviously. It's a vitally important issue, as you'll see in a couple minutes why already from the very beginning of this presentation. You'll see how imperative this is. Step 2 is de-acidification, alkalinization. Basically, your body chemistry should be made somewhat more alkaline. It should be operating between 7.3 and 7.6 pH. The major lifestyle risk factors, caffeine, nicotine, sugar, stress, alcohol, pharmaceuticals, and lots of red meats cause your body to become a breeding ground for these infectious diseases and literally suppress the electron flow, the energetic flow, the proper communications intercellular necessary for you to maintain optimal immunity. So detox, de-acidify, or alkalinize. Step 3 is boosting or normalizing natural immunity holistically, that is every way possible, physically, mentally, emotionally, socially, environmentally, and above all, spiritually. That's step 3 of the Healing Celebrations protocol. Step 4 and 5 have been heavily suppressed because they're miraculous. Step 4 deals with oxygen, oxygenation, ozone therapies, everything having to do with getting more element number 8 into your system. You'll learn tonight element number 8 is the Creator's element. It carries the energy for sustenance for life. And step 5 is the most important of all because it speaks to who you and I really are, spiritual beings, having a physical body as a vehicle for consciousness, carrying around to having this earthly experience. So the step 5 is bioenergetics or biospiritual, everything from hands-on healing and prayer to the rife technologies that have been heavily suppressed and demonized. Those are the 5 steps in the Healing Celebrations book, and those books are available, about a case and a half of them, I understand, at the bookstore after this meeting. End commercial. Last night, we talked about this issue of Baxter and the coming plagues, and it was, I guess, perfect at the end. My slides and graphics weren't showing. Now they're going to show because we've got my computer up here, and what I neglected to tell you, which is what I planned to finish off with last night, was the choice point, that you and I are compelled now, and the main reason is, we talked about these viruses. And for those of us who have a full faith in our Creator, we understand that our Creator would never let us down. Ooh, my goodness. Wow, water! Speaking of the Creator and water. How about that? Is that perfect or what? Woo! I was just about to plug this in because didn't want to run out in my last couple seconds here. Can you get a towel or something? Thanks a lot. Wow. Only in London. Thank you. So the Creator would never let us down. Those who have covenants with the Creator, oops, please don't. Oh, this is going to go off now. Mamma mia.
It's a brand new Mac.
It's a brand new Mac, yeah. Here, do me a favor. Would you plug this in while I attend to what I got to do? So the Creator would never let us down, right? So you got to understand this issue of viruses. You think that's really a problem for the Creator to handle? Absolutely not. And the Creator's got it handled. And now we just have to come to terms with how the Creator's plan to handle it and how we are going to handle it with the Creator. So here's the story. The reality is that if you are friends with some of the people that I'm friendly with, you've been maintaining the highest level of intelligence, literally from the inside, the highest levels of science in national security, even in the United States. And about 2.5 years ago now, I got a very disturbing phone call from a colleague, somebody who I trust, who has been at the forefront of U.S. scientific intelligence in the area of solar dynamics, cosmology, and what's happening in the planetary systems. His name is Dave Adair. And Dave has been a guest on Coast to Coast with George Norrie. Some of you probably know him. He was, in my humble opinion, the first person that I heard actually advance this thesis. Since then, it's almost like old news at this point. Dave Adair called me and said, Len, he says, I know that you're really a spirit-filled person, and I'm going to share something with you that I haven't shared yet, and I think that you're the guy who should carry this message out because you have some semblance of spiritual understanding and how maybe to best handle this best. It's pretty intense news. And that news is, he says, I've done the analysis, the mathematical analysis about a dozen times just to make sure that I'm not making a mistake. And he said that every time I do it, it comes out to the same thing. That on December 21st, 2012, we're going to have such a huge solar flare hit planet Earth that everything is going to burn. That's a virtual quote from Dave Adair. And he explained it to me. He explained to me that he had been doing this work and that subsequently there have been a number of other people who have even gone on Coast to Coast with George Norrie and talked about. I've got nothing up here. I'm just going to join. Oh, there it is. I've got no picture up here whatsoever. Hey, is anybody savvy with Mac back in the operating room? Oh, perfect. See, I get by with a little help from my friends, Yeah, it's a brand new one, yeah. Well, that's okay. It works the same, functions-wise, I think. Good. Play with it. See what you can do. So Dave said to me this bad news, and subsequently there have been numerous other researchers, scientists, very credible, who've said the same thing. And then just before, about a week before I came here, there was a internet report circulated from a retired U.S. Navy physicist that added one dimension on this that I didn't even think about, except for the fact, I wouldn't have thought about, except for the fact that what I shared with you yesterday with regard to the research that was going that showed immune suppression associated with chemical intoxication, that was literally sitting on my computer just before this whole issue that was raised by this U.S. Navy retired physicist who said that not only will we have in the coming years huge solar flares, because there's really two changes in the cosmology that's taking place right now. One of them is causing the bursting out of these incredible solar flares, and at the same time, there is a diminution of the general radiation being given off of the sun, and that has been, over all these millennia, what is associated with us having protection against cosmic radiation. Now, any fool knows, it's like I shared yesterday, that viruses are killed by ultraviolet light and cosmic radiation. So you see that, number one, the Creator is not at all concerned about what you and I are concerned about. The Creator has a remedy for this unnatural tragedy of infectious disease induction. And that how that tragedy is going to be resolved naturally is through this radiation that's going to come down. And that means that we are likewise, or our children, and maybe even our children's children, are going to have to uplift our own resonance to be able to cope with that extraordinary increased change, even genetically modifying type of radiation that, in fact, is perfect for this time. Because it really, what it does is it compels us. Hey, you got that? It's pretty good, guys. You're getting there. Oh, well, I can help you now, okay. I think. Let's see. If I get out of this, why does it go off like that? You know, I think it got wet. I think that's what happened. You want to restart it? Reboot it up, maybe? So, it's perfect for where we stand currently. If you understand what NASA science proved about 10 years ago, that the universe is full of water. Water is literally the liquid crystal superconducting creative juice of the universe. And that interesting how after the story of Noah and the ark, afterwards it says in the Bible that the Creator was so sad for having done this to his children that he swore he would never make it rain for 40 days and 40 nights again. But look at the water currently in this situation we're in now, likewise being used for this literally evolution of global pandemic. Think I ruined it? What's that?
It's not happy then.
It's not happy, huh? Wow. Britain's getting back at me. Britain's getting back. Little Satan doesn't like what I'm doing here, I guess, huh? So, I'm not going to worry about it. I'm not going to worry about it. You go with the flow. So, the water is the Savior. The water is in you. The Savior is in you. And that this whole concept now, we're entering into a time that Christ spoke about, where he said, a time will come where you'll be on this planet, but no longer of it. Now, that has several meanings, one of which you and I have already experienced. We've already experienced this concept of the ideology and the political hypocrisy. We can't imagine that it's doing this. We can't imagine that it's decimating the populations like it is. So we've already removed ourselves psychosocially from this madness. That's one level. But there's another level. And that's a spiritual level. And that's a level where literally now we have the opportunity to transcend this madness in a bio-spiritual, bio-energetic capacity. Many of you are already playing with those types of things. You may be already engaging in, psychic phenomena, metaphysical realities, understanding, having future vision, much like Da Vinci. And I apologize that the slides that I have some beautiful slides this year, unfortunately, But the reality is that we've got now this uplift in our heartfelt love, heart connection to the Creator that has us now engaging in our highest level of spiritual evolution. So, if you look at Da Vinci's work, and that slide that I was about to show you shows us that nothing new under the sun has happened. We've now divided the pie, or the pie has been literally divided between the religious world and the geopolitical realm. And the image of the picture that you probably had never seen before is of the Roman Catholic Church, literally in the image of a pagan symbol, the Baal, the bull, the fertility god, delivering over the stormy waters the tree of life to the shores of virtually the royal family that's controlling the globe. And this concept now that we are transcending this madness and coming out of her, my people, lest ye be infected by her lunacy, her hypocrisy, and her great plagues, is a compelling moment. We talked about choice yesterday. We talked about this being a required now, everything's black and white, much more than it has ever been, that we've got to literally pull out and say, okay, well, what can we do? What is meaning in life? What's the meaning in life? The fundamental essence of meaning in life, there's really two things that you long for. One is to be of some useful service to another human being. Social service is the fabric that binds humanity together. And the other thing is this concept of divine human communion. We came from someplace totally metaphysical, obviously. And now we're heading back, going home. Home, you've heard, is where the heart is. Home, where the heart is where the love is. So whatever we do in social service, we've got to maximize this whole capacity to give, to share, to care for other people. You don't mind if I have some of your water? I know it's not treated. Is that all right? Great, thank you. The last time I got some water from the folks here, it didn't work out too well. Thank you. So this concept of like we're going home, compelled to go home by the circumstances of our age. That's the beauty of this moment. I know most of you in this room kind of feel at this point in time, just like I do. Life is an amazing, interesting, and totally bizarre trip. And I want you to know that on the other side is a fantasy land that is awesome. And I tell you that, I'm sure you've probably heard of a bunch of people who have already gone back to the other side, went through the tunnel, got to the light, saw their relatives over there, and then came back. I can tell you that there's nothing to fear about that process because you're looking at somebody. People ask me all the time, aren't you afraid that they are going to kill you? And really the answer to that is your question sources from a place that I don't want to go. The context of your question is in the fear egoic domain. I'd rather stay in this concept called love, in the here, right now, literally appreciating the moment, literally connecting with you optimally. Like when the first time I thought that I might be killed was the first time I became aware of my mortality and then made that transition to the next step of really appreciating my life and my children. And I would suddenly now make it absolutely a point to look into my children's eyes when they spoke to me and see the glitter and the glory and the love in that windows to their soul and literally just soak in every word as though it were my last that I'd ever hear. And it was at that moment when I became aware of my potential mortality in this engagement, this service, that I really began to live life. Much later, really, I realized that I should have not been here already. That there's no reasonable, rational explanation for at least a half a dozen times that I'm actually still here. And then it dawned on me how much our Creator loves us. So this concept that we long for some loving, intimate, interpersonal relationship engaged in some aspect of being helpful, serving others, the fabric that binds us together as a human family. And then this next level of engaging the Creator from this heartfelt, full maximum divine connection. And that became really clear that that is what's so for all of us. And half of you in this room, we're just going to prove it to you right now, have had a similar experience, which shows, empirically proves through observation, reinforcement over and over again, because I'm going to ask for a raise of hands of who in this audience has had a near-death or real-death experience. Raise your hands. Okay, raise them high. You can see probably about a little less. I guess you're safer in London than most of the world. So I guess I'm looking at about a third of the audience with your hands raised. And there's something extraordinary that half of you who have had those near-death experiences or real-death experiences are experienced along this way. That in those moments of quote-unquote accidents, and it was Einstein who said the word accident should be erased from the dictionary. There are no accidents. There's learning experiences. There's karma. There is a generation of this mathematical energy that goes out and literally comes back. As you sow, so shall you reap. What goes around comes around. And it's all mediated musically, mathematically. It's either in harmony or it's in dissonance with the universe. And that's the way the math and the physics now lays out. But this near-death and real-death experience is no accident. It's a growth moment. And at that point, half of you who had your hands raised actually went into this kind of like etheric state. Suddenly, time-space warp, where suddenly time seems to go in slow motion. And you saw the accident unfolding just like from this space of peace, of bliss. And just like you would never want your children to be harmed, if you're a loving parent, you would never ever want your children to have to suffer needlessly or be in pain, no matter what was happening. You'd protect them. Likewise, that's your Creator. Because built into this system, this dynamic called the human experience, is this cocoon of protection that you and I actually go into when there's a near-death or real-death experience happening. And from that space, it's painless. It's peaceful. And then the physical reality happens. And after the trauma, all of a sudden, half of you who had those experiences, suddenly it comes back, normal time, speed, you look around, you see what happened, and then you thank the Creator for your still alive. Now, if you've had that kind of experience, please just raise your hands high. Let's see you. Okay, raise it real high, be proud. Now look around the room. I'm looking at about 20 people with their hands raised. So that just goes to show you how much the Creator of this universe loves you personally. So with that understanding, it's really a celebration of the time in which we're now evolving through. The time whereby this choice to do what is right optimally for yourself and for humanity is upon us. And that the obvious question then becomes, know thyself. What is it about you that's so special? What is it about you that the Creator loves so much? And then to really examine that, are you doing the best and most proper thing for you? And the issue starts with water, body chemistry. This whole concept of the musical mathematics that makes the water sing, that literally creates you right here, right now, as a digital, bioholographic precipitation, crystallization, miraculous manifestation of divine frequency vibration coming out of and manifesting in water. You can't help being in divine communion. That's where you come from. That's home. This is a hydrated atmosphere. We'd all totally be desiccated and eliminated if there wasn't water in this air. It is in communion and communication with you constantly. I wouldn't be seeing you right now if it wasn't for that. So going back to like Da Vinci, and then looking where Da Vinci got his genius from. His creative genius is the same place that you and I have the opportunity to literally be inspired with creative genius. from a full understanding of the water. He did a drawing called Old Man Water, where a Moses-looking character sticks his staff down into the water, and Da Vinci's studying the swirling effect. Now, meanwhile, Moses' name, I don't know if you know this, Moses' name, translated in Hebrew, literally means, very close to means, saved by the water. The story of Moses parting the water parting for Moses. Maybe that staff was, like William Henry talks about, electron beam generator, extraterrestrial technology capable of moving the water like that. Maybe, but we don't really know. Because there is some phenomenon inside you, it's called faith, that can move mountains. Christ said if you had as little faith as a mustard seed, you could move mountains. How much faith does a mustard seed have? Infinite. Why? Because all a mustard seed is this genetic strand in water. It doesn't have an ego that says it can't do it. So it can move mountains. It pushes through rocks 50 million times its size and gets a tree. This concept that Da Vinci was studying this phenomenon. His mentors were Plato, Pythagoras, Vitruvian, Aristotle, and they all talked about what you've got to look up in the dictionary when you go home tonight. Polymath. The whole concept of education and knowledge, that's what polymath was, still is. It's an absolute tragedy and a total crime and gross criminal negligence that we have our wives give birth to babies in hospitals and the medical deities don't give us what you get if you buy anything or have anything. You get yourself, you might want to try, take a hairdryer to it. Oh, perfect. Thanks. Is this on? Can you hear me? Yeah. The reason why I went off stage right now is not only are the lights hot and glaring, I can't see you. Oh, true. Come on down. Come on down. So look up the words polymath. Look up the word polyhistor. The root of history, histor-e, the symbol for energy. All of this has to do with the understanding of mathematics being the fundamental language of creation. And so you have this, I don't trust that. I learned my lesson the hard way on that one. So this concept that if you study the greats, they tell you right out front that the language of mathematics, the language by which architecture takes form, all of these geometry, sacred geometry, and music, that's mathematics. So that's fundamental that it's unbelievable negligent that we're not given a book of how to take care of who you are. This concept throughout the eons of know thyself. Who are you? What are you made of? Water and earth. Mostly seawater and minerals. Lava rock, crushed up. Lava rock that has electrons flowing. The electricity from these lights, the blink of your eye, it doesn't matter what action and reaction in the universe. It's all coming from one source, electrons. The source of those electrons is one source, water, the living God. Hydrogen donates those electrons. So it's all math-based. The energy, frequency, vibration, and resonance of the electron spin literally creates your body to move. So this concept of there being a fundamental understanding that has been grossly neglected and suppressed so that we don't get a full measure of the fact that we're not humans. We're superhumans. In fact, if you really look at the definition of human, it's degrading. It's really little more in some of the definitions than dogs or cattle. So the concept in the Judeo-Christian theology that there will be a time that comes where there is such a raise and elevation of awareness and consciousness that we literally now join the Creator. It's called the bride, in Christianity. Matures to where you can join the Messiah in 1,000 years of world peace. That's what we're talking about here. That is not just the opportunity, it is the compelling moment in history where that choice has to be made by you. At lunch, I had an interview with brother from the Nation of Islam, Brother Leonard from Nation of Islam, and Sister Esther, who has a Radio Africa program. And one of the questions that came up was, what do you eat? What do I personally eat? Do I have a major concern over the things that I eat? And the answer is, I'm pretty careful. I'm not totally strict, everything in moderation to some extent, but I don't pollute my body. I treat my Holy Spirit-filled temple because literally, I want the most. I want the best. I want to reach for the best in myself, and I want to be able to contribute optimally. And if you're sick and ailing, you really can't do that. You're dependent on others to care for you. So just to be response-able, I need to really take care and watch, to some extent, what I drink and what I eat. And the comment also was, so many of us go out there, we smoke those cigarettes, which are the cancer sticks that we know about, and we go out there and we drink the beer, which is the liver-intoxicating substance. And I'm not saying this to come down on all you fans of those behaviors. I'm just suggesting to you that literally, you got to shit or get off the pot. What did you do? You just spent how much money to be here this weekend? You spent a lot of money. You took a lot of time out of your life to come here because this is where the truth shall be told that you really like. There's a part of you that really loves that, and then there's another part of you that self-sabotages. And so that subpersonality that self-sabotages is really it's not my business, it's your business. It's only my business when I think of the fact that you are my brother and my sister. But you know what? You can knock your head against the wall just like I tried with many of my family. You've had the same experience, the black sheep among you from your families. You've tried to not be convincing and not been successful in convincing your relatives that, hey, there's something else going on than what you think is important. But now it's like, here's Horowitz telling you. And ultimately, though, it comes back to the same topic. Christ said it beautifully. Men live by more than bread alone. Men live by more than oxysilver alone. You have a spirit that is connected to the Creator's Spirit that drives the entire universe. There's nothing more powerful than that. That's why the Illuminati are idiots. If they think that they're going to get away with this, they are in total gross deception. And that is evident not just by your applause, but by what's taking place in your bodies and in your experiences. Raise your hands if over the past several years, and particularly accelerated the last several months, you've had increase in spiritual sensitivities, and little miracles and big miracles alike happening for you. You know, you're working on something or working with a project, and suddenly, miraculously, the next steps, the people, the places, the things come right into your lap. Raise your hands if that's going on for you. Look around, folks. That's the vast majority. Hello, brothers and sisters, spirit-filled beings. Love you. Now, you have to question, how is that happening? What's the driving force of that? It's the cosmology, it's the musical, mathematical matrix of divinity that has come to bless humanity maximally. So this is the time. Mathematics. Polyhistor is all about math. History comes and evolves out of the math. The music.
Out of movement, spin.
Yes, spin.
Spin.
I'm sorry. What causes the spin is the math. Now again, if the hairdryer works and I ever get my Mac back, I'll show you what we're talking about. Yeah, I'll show you what we're talking about. Essentially, write these numbers down. Most of you have papers and pencils, okay? We're looking at 9 core creative frequencies. I'll tell you what really happened was about 1998. I was in Massachusetts, and I had just come to terms with my mother's death from getting vaccinated with hepatitis. I'm sorry, no, she took a flu vaccine, and that gave her Guillain-Barré, and then subsequent her immune system failed, and she developed cancer and then died from a few radiation treatments. And my mom had scrubbed the streets at Nazi gunpoint in Vienna and made it out on the last boat that made it out, and I was an idiot. She would always tell me, Len, this could happen again anytime, anywhere. And I said, Mom, you don't know what you're talking about. You must be neurotic. You could use some therapy from the trauma, because today we have the media to protect us. Man, was I an idiot. So, you know, I got to this point of looking at asking for the Achilles heel of the Illuminati. If you look back at my old videos, you see Horowitz was pretty angry. And I was literally praying for the Achilles heel of the Illuminati. And then basically, Dr. Joseph Paleo was in northern Idaho. Never met him before, never heard of him. At the same time, he was praying for Dr. Len Horowitz to come to have him give me the original 6 musical scale notes and the original solfeggio that Jesus came to him in a vision with a big angel. And this is where the book Healing Codes for the Biological Apocalypse begins, and administered to him out of the ancient Levitical priesthood's knowledge, the original 6 musical scale notes, ut, re, mi, fa, sol, la. Those 6 notes was all she wrote for the most powerful, spiritually uplifting hymn of all the ages. It was called the Hymn to St. John the Baptist. 6 musical tones in that note that would uplift humanity. And of course, that along with about 152 Gregorian chants were somehow lost by the Roman Catholic Church officials. So it turns out that the ancient classical musicians, the scholars, Haydn's 96th symphony is called the Miracle because the 3rd note of this original musical scale, ut, re, mi, miragistorum in Latin, miracles. This is the miracle note. 528 hertz frequency. So write these frequencies down. 396, 417, 528, 639, 741, 852. And if you list those 6 frequencies right on top of another, and then you simply do the math and you run down the hundreds column, the tens column, the ones column, you see a pattern. Just finish the pattern, and you'll come up with a perfect circle of sound. Jonathan Goldman called me up. He's the world's leading sound healing expert. He said, Len, you published 6. Aren't there 9? I said, this is a smart guy. 9 is always completion. 9 is completion in ancient mystery school Pythagorean mathematics. Visualize what a 9 looks like. It is a spiral. It spirals up from the ground, up from earth into the wholeness of heaven. Completion. A 6, you've heard of 666. It is a spiral down from heaven into the wholeness and the manifestation on the earthly plane. 666 is actually 3 times 6 is 18, 1 plus 8 is 9. That is the most powerful physical manifesting number for complete subsistence, complete financial reward. That's why when you look at, and I feel badly because I'd love to show you the alphanumerics of the English language. For those of you with notebooks here, basically just put down A to Z, one on top of the other, and then number it from 1 to 27. And at the end of 1 to 27, realize that we're dealing with ancient mystery school Pythagorean math, so that there's only 9 numbers in the universe, 1 through 9. 10 is a man-made notion. The zeros are placeholders. The decimal system came in by man's invention. And in the 1400s, the Anglo-Saxons, at the time of Da Vinci, you want to know why he wrote backwards? Here's why. Because at the time that he was alive and starting to be really genius, late 1400s, they started to take the Italian language and Latin and earlier languages that were considered sacred languages and modify them into a new world language called English. And that when you now take this A to Z numbering system, 1 through 9, 1 through 9, 1 through 8. 10 is 1 plus 0, that's 1. 11 is 1 plus 1, that's 2. So A to Z, you got 1 through 9, 1 through 9, 1 through 8. And then if you take the words faith, trust, and God, Dr. Palaio realized all came out to 8s, the infinity sign. And that now, if you study the Bible like Joseph did, the Creator never adds, subtracts, always multiplies, which is the reason for the spinning of the entire universe, because everything is mathematically, exponentially accelerated in a 8, in a spiral. The fractal universe is being created not as you and I think of fractals, as squares. That's in the digital realm. The Creator's fractal is round. Everything is being created round. At any rate, if you take the multiples of 8, because the Bible never adds or subtracts, always multiplies. Take the number 8. 1 times 8 equals 8. 2 times 8 equals 16, the multiples of 8. Where 1 plus 6 is 7. 3 times 8 equals 24. Where 2 plus 4 is 6. Okay, you got 876543219, 876543221, which is the English alphabet backwards. And then when you take the English alphabet backwards, add it to the English alphabet forwards, A is 8, plus Z is 1, 8 plus 1 is 9. B is 7, plus YZ. Yeah, it's 2. Suddenly you realize that you're dealing with all 9s. Completion. So you've just proven that there is a perfection to the English language. Obviously, an idiot didn't create it. Obviously, it was generated by somebody who put a lot of thought into the mathematics. The ancient secret society mystery school math. And what does that math prove to you? That we are speaking the language of the sacred languages, Hebrew, ancient sacred Aramaic, Babylonian, Sanskrit, backwards. Now you can begin to understand dyslexia and all these children that are having difficulties with reversing their numbers and their letters. And we say that they're learning deficient, they have special needs, and we give them whatever we give them, special attention or drugs. Meanwhile, this is the natural spiritual way of orienting yourself to the cosmos. Da Vinci knew that. That's the real reason he was writing backwards, because it has this capacity to open up the heart mind versus the egoic mind. We're stuck in the egoic mind. The question is, for Horowitz, how come you're still alive stems from the egoic mind, the fear-based mind. That is what the mainstream media, news media particularly, plays to. Pain, fear, loss, threats to survival. Trigger, stimulus response, egoic mechanisms, memories, traumatic injuries from the past that you don't want to have to relive. So you go into that state of chaos. That is what the reptilian alien who slithered into the Garden of Eden told Eve. You'll eat the apple. You won't really die. You'll have the knowledge of the Creator. But what happened? Concept is now separation from Creator is in the heart. Faith in the Creator is the covenant. You know, I got this special news. I think I mentioned it briefly. I didn't tell you all about it. The concert for the Living Water that's coming up. I just got word yesterday that the modern Ark of the Covenant, which is a drum, has been positioned and will be positioned in 3 weeks under the great temple. The prophecies have said that the great temple mount, in the beginning of the major shift, this Revelation 13:5, where we oust the beast out of the water, that when that happens, the Bible prophesied, said, water will start to run once again under the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. And lo and behold, that's what's happened right now. I just got the report yesterday. At the same moment, I got the report that instead of this beautiful other outdoor temple, I was told that the grandmother drum and White Eagle medicine woman will be playing it. It's going to be positioned at the holiest of holy places in the Holy Land. And that concept that drum plays in 5-2-8. Third note, 396-417, 5-2-8. Ut, re, mi. I've got to go into what these notes mean. You realize this is the resonant frequency of divinity that we must commune with maximally to make this transition into our light bodies. That if you really love yourself and you're really committed to be here on this planet and make a difference and bless your children and your children's children maximally for eternity, because we are now talking about entering into that kingdom of heaven, which is right here, right now. Jesus said, the kingdom of heaven is near. He did not mean temporally far off in time. He did not mean that when the year 2012 rolls around, suddenly we're going to have the kingdom of heaven manifest. No. What allowed him to walk on water was this divine human communion that he became the light body of the Creator. And this time in history now where we evolve our consciousness, not just our theology, not just religious doctrine, orientation, by our rock-solid science. I work with the world's leading physicists and mathematicians who tell me likewise that the entire universe is spiraling because of this math, and at the heart foundation of this math, the heart of it all is 5-2-8. The miracle note, miracle frequency of the universe. All of the botanical world is mostly green. This beautiful color of the grass is this greenish yellow color. The color of a baby leaf budding in the spring is greenish yellow. Why? Because it's reaching for the maximum available blessing in the electromagnetic, musical, mathematical matrix the religious world calls the kingdom of heaven. It's right here, right now. You wouldn't be here if you weren't in communion with it to some extent. And the only thing that separates you from it and the full experience of it is this concept that you've adapted that says, you are a survival mechanism, an ego versus a loving heart. So he said, come out of her, my people, lest ye be infected by her plagues. That's what I'm telling you. Come out of the hypocrisy, the lunacy, the insanity that we can't even connect with. We can't even reasonably rationalize it anymore. It's so genocidal. But in this age now, you just can't come out of it psychosocially. You've got to come out of it spiritually to survive and evolve. It requires a change of your DNA. The great news is that that DNA is a spiral. Why? Because according to Nassim Haramein, who I understand just an hour before I came here, is going to be speaking with Jonathan Goldman the hour before we call people into prayer globally. Nassim Haramein, who studied with Einstein, actually studied the work of Einstein, the field equations. He's the world's leading metaphysical physicist. Please do see his videos. He's basically shown that the structure of the universe, based on the mathematics, is this double toroidal figure 8 type of a design, which explains karma, judgment. It explains, as you sow, so shall you reap. It explains what goes around comes around. Because we're engaged in this system now. And that system is spiraling. And your DNA is spiraling because it is a Tesla coil, mediated into its shape by water. It is the water resonance. Fundamentally love. 528-417-396. Those principal 6 solfeggio tones intimately connected with not only cosmology, the way that the planets and the galaxies spin and the positioning, but the way your DNA has a resonance frequency and a function to receive and transmit signals of sound and light. All of this has been proven. I would show you some slides from the journal Science if the computer was up. What are you going to do? It's perfect. Got to go with the flow. Go with the flow, right? That's water. So the reality is you've got this sacred spiral that is actually getting into its sacred geometry, its spiral, from literally this perfect circle of sound. Now let me just go back for a minute. The Da Vinci drawing, the Vitruvian woman. It's called the Vitruvian man. One of the questions Sister Esther asked me today during this interview was, what's this concept that you have of the role that women will play in this new world, the spirit-filled 10,000 years of world peace, or let's say at least 1,000. And this feminine principle that has been so suppressed by the patriarchal oligarchy, that we have literally dishonored the most creative member of civilization, the feminine. And the Da Vinci drawing, when I decrypted it, here's what you look at. Most of you know what that looks like. It's on the back of the Eurodollar. It's an image with a square and a circle. And the center of that square and circle, there's an image of a guy-gal or a girl-guy with 4 arms and 4 legs. Obviously, there's 2 people there and a head. You just can't see the woman who's behind the man. There's always a great woman behind a man. That's a famous saying. The women are among you going, yeah, I knew that, right? Guys are going, yeah, it seems that way. And then the square, according to art historians, represents the earthly plane. This physical reality, that gross deception that we're experiencing. And the circle, they tell you, represents the cosmic connection, the whole cosmos. So this is supposedly the universal man standing in balance. Hogwash. There's a woman behind the man. Now, how do you know there's a woman behind the man? Because she alone has had the wisdom to step out of the box of earthly limitation. Look at her feet, squarely planted on the circle. Her hands alone pierce the square and touch the circle. His are stuck in the box. His feet are stuck in the center of the box. How do you know it's a him? Because the center of the square, imprisoned in the earthly dimension, is the guy standing there with his third leg. Third leg. The one-eyed wonder worm is at the center of the square. That's the center of his earthly universe. The honest guys in the room will say, yeah, that's right on. The women in the room go, what else is new? I knew that. But how do you know it's a woman who stands behind him? Because the center of the circle is a female reproductive organ called the umbilicus. So the concept of us now transcending the divide the sheeple to conquer the flock agenda of the Illuminati. How do you control the planet? This thing, English language, is a great example. The Illuminati took the example of Babylon, Babylonian divide the sheeple, where you remember the story in the Bible where the Babylonians were building these great castles to the sky and becoming egomaniacal. They could do everything and they forgot giving praise and glory and tribute to the source. So the Creator comes down and says, I'm just going to do this one simple thing. I'm going to confuse the tongues, and then they won't be able to communicate, and then they'll be disempowered. Now you see, the English language was constructed to maximally disempower you and spiritually degrade you. Optimally degrading. So that this concept, that's what we're now engaged in, is the revelation of this and the transcendence of these limitations by requirement to survive. It's a survival game, you heard, survival of the fittest. Now we're engaged in survival by the most spirit-filled, by the most loving and capable. So let's go back to this issue of understanding the revelation of the water within the DNA that makes this tick. This whole thing is set up out of water. There is a thing, you might have heard Dr. Masaru Emoto, who I have the privilege in about 3 weeks on Thursday night, the 18th of June, to present Dr. Emoto with the world's leading humanitarian award for science, the Live H2O People's Award for Humanitarian Science, and that Dr. Emoto's work has been featured in What the Bleep Do We Know and numerous other beautiful works, and he shows you that water responds to prayer. He shows you that water, actually, if you pray over it, you can take water from a tap, and he shows you the slides. It looks like raw sewage under a microscope, 20,000 magnification. Looks like you wouldn't want to drink it. But if you literally take that same water and you pray over it, suddenly it clears up and it becomes a structure, a six-sided hexagonal shape. Why six? Well, gee whiz, MI6. The source of MI6, British intelligence, is 528. The fundamental creative frequency of the universe, which the researchers like Dr. Lorenzen, who is Dr. Emoto's water science mentor, was my water science mentor. When I told him about 528 being revealed as the third code, the third musical note of the original solfeggio scale out of what the Levitical priests put into the Bible, he almost fell off of his chair, literally laughing. It We were at dinner together. And I said, what are you laughing at? He says, that's unbelievable. He says, I put that into my water because I know that that is used by the world's leading genetic biochemist to be the miraculous, he said, repair frequency for damaged DNA. Well, how is it that you could have broken strands, broken chromosomes of DNA in a test tube, and you can play 528 hertz frequency to that, and suddenly have the DNA start to resonate and then go whoop, right back into the sacred geometry spiral that it's meant to be? Because it's the core fundamental frequency of the entire universe. This concept of resonance and entrainment. You know what an entrainment means? If you take a room full of, let's say, a couple dozen women just going to freshman year in a college dormitory, put them together after a couple months, their menstrual cycles go into sync. Or if you take a room full of cuckoo clocks, I understand, I've never done this experiment, but if you take a room full of cuckoo clocks, all with pendulums swinging at different times, and you bring in a big, heavy pendulum that's swinging likewise per second, all of a sudden come back a few months later, all the clocks are in tune with the big grandfather. So that's resonance, entrainment. It's like another example of that is how the moon and the cycles move the water, entraining into this higher dimension of gravity and force. So this concept that water is the fundamental unit and the six-sided hexagonal shape ring, which is the Star of David. What is Solomon's seal? It's called. What is that defined in Webster's dictionary? A, quote, amulet for the elimination of fevers. Fevers are caused by what? Infectious disease. So it's an amulet for the prevention and elimination of infectious disease. Well, how could it do that? Because it's resonating in harmony with divinity. If you see it, your eyes are picking up the sacred geometry. There's obviously a resonant frequency that you're witnessing. It's having an impact in your neurology. It's going into your brain, which is well hydrated. It's the highest, most amount of water in your body is in your brain. And guess what happens? The water resonant frequency. What's water? Water is a tetrahedron structure. H2O. It's a pyramid. You've heard of pyramid power. Liquid crystal. Superconductor of energy. That's the tetrahedron. And that, you know, when Moses was at the burning bush, Creator told him his name. He said, I am that I am the beginning and the end. I am the tetragrammaton, or the Yud-Hey Vav-Hey. Yod-Hey Vav-Hey means to breathe is to exist. Element number 8, oxygen. Creator's miracle element for healing, oxygenation therapies. Step 4 of the healing celebrations, oxygenation therapies. This concept, H plus OH minus, is the equation for the construction of the universe. H plus is hydrogen. Losing, it did its electron. What then carried the electron is the oxygen, the prana, the breath of life. That carries the energy. So this is why you look now in the environment, and instead of 36% atmospheric oxygen, because of the petrochemical pharmaceutical degradation of the environment, we're now looking at maybe 17 or 18%. Literally robbing Creator. Yeah, robbing us, robbing God in us. Robbing God. Robbing the entire world from element number 8. So this concept of H plus, you see what happened? H plus is an acid. pH, we talked about step 2 of the healing celebration. Detox and de-acidification or alkalization. Look at how simple health really becomes when you understand the fundamental creationism of the universe. Water. Water science. H plus is an acid. Your body becomes acidified, you become a breeding ground for bacteria, viruses, fungus, yeast, infections, cancer, arthritis, inflammatory conditions, and neurological impairments. In other words, everything that Babylon makes money off of humanity's suffering with, all the chronic diseases, can be resolved simply by the power of hydrogen from water. pH, parts hydrogen. The sun, you must know, is 98% hydrogen. The rest of it, I think, is helium. Two H's, 2 hydrogens put together. So you see, everything in the universe now comes out of water. And your DNA, I guarantee you, if you take those 9 numbers, 1 through 9, and you draw a circle and put them equally spaced. Start, let's say, at the top. You can put, 9 at the top. Then you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then you do an exercise. Just double the numbers and draw a line between those numbers. Like 1 and 1 is 2, 2 and 2 is 4, 4 and 4 is 8. You got to go back up to the top of the circle. 8 and 8 is 16, where 1 plus 6 is 7. You drop down to the 7. 7 and 7 is 14, where 1 plus 4 is 5. 5 and 5 is 10, where 1 plus 0 is 1. You're back up to the 1. You started with 1, 1 is 2. Back up to the 1. Now you've created 2 angel wings that come together right in the center. Superimpose that over the Da Vinci drawing. You've got that spot where the 8, like the figure 8, has that special spot in it. It's like a singularity, like 0-point energy, where things come from spiritual realm into the physical. That's 5 to 8. That's love. That's the real fundamental source of the universe. Now let's look at these numbers. They're all 3 6s and 9s. Look, 3, 9, 6, 4, 1, 7, 5, 2, 8. We'll just take those, right? The first 3 of the original solfeggio scale. 3, 9, 6. So 6 and 3 is 9. 9 and 9 is 18. 1 plus 8 is 9. So the first number, the oot, used to be oot. Now it's do. You know, since Sound of Music, we go do, a deer, a female deer, right? Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la. It used to be oot, re, mi, fa, sol, la, and there was no C or no T. That came in with Sancta Ionis. Roman Catholic Church added that note into the original. And when you add a note into what's perfect, what happens? You imbalance it. But the reality is that the original 396 comes out to a 9. 417 is the second note. So add it up. 8 and 4, it's 12, right? 1 and 2 is a 3. So you got 9, 3, and the third note I told you is a 6. 936, 936, 936. Now, you know what you're hearing? Plato, Pythagoras, Aristotle, Vitruvian, Da Vinci, Tesla, John Keeley, the greatest geniuses in mathematics, said, this is a quote, Tesla, if humanity only knew the powers of the 3 6s and 9s, it would be a completely different universe, end quote. Why? Why did he say that? What's the meaning of it? The meaning is that you're made from the 3 6s and 9s. If you want to engage the power and the glory of creativity maximally, then everything you're going to do is going to be involving the 3, 6, 9s, and 8s. The 8s were special, said Da Vinci's mentors. Because, again, that's the principal structure of the universe. The singularity at the center, that place where the vectors of energy cross within the symbol 8 is that spot, heart, love. So this is now the understanding that we can bring to the musical mathematics that shall set humanity free optimally. You've heard the saying that the truth shall set you free. The greatest secreted truths, therefore, have the capacity to emancipate us completely. So we're really not messing around in this room, are we? We're getting absolutely the most blessed download of divine revelation for full measure creativity to do what with? Go out there and recreate this planet in the image that you have in your heart, that it deserves to be. Get out of that egoic mind, that fear-based mind that intimidates you from being all that you can be and expressing yourself as fully and lovingly and creatively as possible. Let's take a look at these notes, the meanings of them. Ut, re, mi, fa, sol, la. Let's get a plan to get out of this mess. I have 528 in my briefcase. If somebody wants to, I could sing 528. We could all chant. Hey, does somebody want to bring me my briefcase? I have my 528 tuning fork in there. So the John Lennon, who was certainly my hero and many other people's hero. Oops. There's two things that you want to attend to that John Lennon was involved in that have intimately to do with what we're doing with Concert for the Living Water. Homework assignment. Go rent Yellow Submarine. Yellow Submarine from your video store. If you haven't watched that yet, definitely got to see it. And if you have watched it, watch it again with what I'm about to tell you in mind. It's a story about how we win. It's a story about what happened to us. It deals with Pepperlanders in this magnificent little village, let's call it the global village, who are simply in love, making music, singing, and playing instruments, and being so creative in full living color, and the word yes, yes, and love is everywhere. One day, they're attacked by the blue meanies. Fitting into where we are right now, geopolitically, and the tragedy of the gross deception and the division, the divide the sheeple to conquer the flock, where you separate Jew from Gentile, Christian from Muslim, black from white, gay from straight, men from women. There's a little professor, the nowhere man, in that film. And he goes up to the head honcho who's starting to attack this blue meanie. And he says to him, he looks at him carefully, big, fat dude, He goes, funny, you don't look bluish. Like, you don't look Jewish. Like, you don't look like the Jewish conspiracy that we're now, throughout the internet, you see this additional gross travesty of intelligence where nobody, even in the Christian community and the patriot community in America, really wants to talk about what Yeshua, what Jesus said, beware of those who call themselves Jews who are not. Because we're really not talking about the Jews. We're talking about aliens, I thought. Reptilians that slithered into the garden. That reconciles now why we had this bizarre, vengeful God in the Old Testament. We could say the same thing today living in a Christian world. Beware of those who call themselves Christians who are not. Beware of those that call themselves Muslims who are not. Beware of those that call themselves Buddhists who are not. But the reality is this little nowhere man says to the professor, brilliant genius professor, he says, you don't look Jewish. And what was the first thing that the bluish people did when they came into Pepperland is they incarcerated the instruments. They put the musical instruments in jail and they silenced the music. And all the Pepperlanders, having lost their music, from glorious, living, creative color, turned into fragile black and white. And then the Blue Meanies, with their various instruments of destruction, came and dropped green apples like Macintosh that I just ruined. Drop those apples right on top of the ground, and the vibrations came out. The vibrations went out and shattered the people that were now fragile black and white. And so the mission of Yellow Submarine, the mariner gets out, the captain escapes, gets into a yellow submarine, and think of what those words really mean in terms of today. Yellow, fearful, submarine, submaritime law. The old people from the Templars that were the great pirates of old, the maritime wealth through the shipping, has always been maintaining the control over global economy. Today's legal system of injustice and the bar is a maritime court system. We are the yellow people in fear underneath that maritime law. And Sergeant Pepper and his Lonely Hearts Club Band are summoned. And they come back from the future. And now their first mission is to free the instruments so that people can get their music back. This is a tuning fork in 528. I'll give you the history, recent history, of what happened since the early 1900s. It was, in fact, 1918, that Rockefeller Foundation, heavily funding the arts. And if you don't know, from Britain, the Carnegie Foundation has been dictating much of the geopolitical issues and agendas, whereas the Rockefeller Foundation has been engaged in education and particularly health science indoctrination. And so funding the arts in America was the Rockefeller Foundation giving money at that time to the American Federation of Musicians that said, we'd like to create a standard musical tuning. 440 hertz frequency. We're going to make the standard. And that didn't go over very well. The world's musicians screamed, this is horrible, how can you do this? This is a tragedy. And it never went very far, so they needed to get a propaganda minister to help persuade the world's population that going to A440 standard tuning was the best. So they hired a man who's probably familiar to many of you in this room. His name is Joseph Goebbels, propaganda minister for the Third Reich. At the time that Rockefellers and Prescott Bush were funding eugenics, and the Kaiser Wilhelm Institute for Eugenics, Anthropology, and Human Heredity in pre-Nazi Germany that today has evolved into the world's leading vaccine testing facility. Kaiser. That this now became the standard, they said, that it was, Goebbels said, for the master race, we need to have a standard tuning. And they created the momentum for accepting A440 as the standard, which it has been. That means that every time you turn on your radio today, Western music, it's all in A440. Now, the research that we now show you is that when you play a 440, it's really like you're stimulating from here up and blocking from here down. In other words, you're sitting on the heart. You block the heart chakra and the full connection, the whole spiritual centering and flow. So, the old days, you used to have the classical composers, like Haydn's 96th Symphony was called The Miracle. And if you have seen Phantom of the Opera, they stole Phantom of the Opera from this truth, or they stole the truth out of the real story. The reason why Haydn called his 96th Symphony The Miracle is because, again, 9 plus 6 is 15, 1 plus 5 is 6. Ut, re, mi, miracle 6, mi 6. That's how Miracle 6 got its name. And now you know, as I mentioned earlier, the reason why this genetic healing happens from the frequency vibration of 5 to 8. So this thing of the royal bloodlines, keeping the purity of the royal bloodlines, this concept of repairing damaged DNA. So MI6, leading intelligence agency for the Illuminati, takes the name MI6. So this concept now that we're coming back to the full understanding of who we are as musical, mathematical manifestations of divine frequency vibrations coming through water is very apparent and indicative of this movement now to fulfill John Lennon's other requests of us. In Revolution, he says, we all want to see the world change. We all want to change. And we all want to see a plan. The plan is in the music. And it's in Webster's dictionary by strict definitions of the tones. Look up in Webster's ut, re, mi, fa, sol, and la. The meanings, the definitions in Webster's. Or just get the book Healing Codes for the Biological Apocalypse. Ut quient laxus. Let me see if I can do this from memory, because I had slides to show you this. Ut quient laxus, or the do note, is defined as a unit of magnetic field strength equal to 10 to the 5th power Gauss. 10 to the 5th power Gauss is 100,000. It's missing 44,000. 4 plus 4 is 8. That's the Creator's number. So the book of Revelation that says in Revelation 14:1 that we shall assemble in the end times, which most prophets agree is now, to sing a new song in such a way as to instantaneously and miraculously deliver this entire planet back by vibrational frequency to the love of the Creator. And ourselves are going home in that. So that's Revelation 14:1, ut quient laxus, and it's also defined as a note that relays all of the gamut of human emotion, from grief to joy. Imagine the power of the entire human condition being sung or played in one note. That's 396. Tesla. Humanity only knew the powers of the 3 6s and 9s. The second note, re, 417 hertz frequency. Resonance fibris in Latin. Resonance in English. What is resonance? It is a, quote, small, periodic stimulus that has a frequency that is close to or precisely that of the general frequency of the system, that it has the capacity to produce a large, profound response. That's virtually a quote, end quote. So in other words, that a small periodic stimulus, small. It could come from just your voice. A small periodic stimulus that is so much like the general resonance frequency of the system, that is the universe. That is, now we know the musical mathematical matrix of reality. That small periodic stimulus has the capacity to produce a profound impact. It's also defined as elusive. You bet this has been elusive. And profoundly powerful, it says. Third note, I don't need to talk about this one. You know what a miracle is. Supernatural manifestation. That's 528. 639 is who you are. Ut, re, mi, fa. Family torum in Latin. Family in English. Webster says the legally appointed members of a congregation that are required to conduct an official action and bring back an earlier state of affairs, says Webster. In the Jewish tradition, a minyan of men, like 10 men, need to sit shiva over a deceased body to get that soul to elevate. That's a family torum. In this age, where we have such pestilence and lunacy and tragedy, and this opportunity to uplift out of this insanity, we have got to have a family torum. Now you can understand my appeal to you folks in London. I have reserved a broadcasting channel for you. You will lose it in 1 week. I'm going to give it to another group somewhere on this planet. I assure you it will be taken. Because I'm calling you as my brothers and sisters, as this family, appointed by the Creator, to sing a new song in the end times, to miraculously uplift the spirit of humanity back to divinity, which is our destiny. So, do, re, mi, fa, family torum. And one last thing I have to tell you about family torum and miracle family torum. If you look at the work of Russia's top space-time physicist, Hartmut Müller, who has developed what's called a standing gravitational wave of the universe. You can think of like a sine wave, and then it's made up of 3 peaks and 3 troughs, or a node of 6 that he calls the in-6. He says that in 6 nodes, all physical dimensions and measures take manifestation, take form. He calls it the in-6, like the Bible talks about in 6 days the Creator creates the universe. This is in 6 nodes within the standing gravitational wave of the universe. We are manifested along with every other physical entity on the universe. So if you simply superimpose, as I did, 396, 417, 528, 639, 741, 852, the original solfeggio scale, you see at the center of the wave is the miracle family. So you are at the heart of the universe. You're being called now to uplift yourself, purify yourself, to be able to transact the business, the spiritual business that's legally or mathematically, musically required to transcend this madness. Ut, re, mi, fa, sol. So, ve pollute in Latin, solve the problem in English. We know we've got a lot of problems to solve. We know we have a lot of pollution to solve. That's the note 741. 852 is labiatum, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la. Labiatum. Lips, the lips. You know, the female labia gives birth, the birth canal. The feminine creative capability comes from the labiatum. But you see, if the Creator creates through the spoken word on water, in the beginning there was the Creator, there was the water, as I shared with you in that, I guess, opening clip. In the beginning there was the Creator, there was the water. And then you had the Holy Spirit of the Creator hover over the face of the water in Genesis 1:2, divide the water from the water. If you and I do that, we get wet, as I showed you. But if the Creator does that, you see, with energy, what you enter into is that quantum field that the physicists talk about. And if you now put in the word or sound, which is the math, into that quantum field, out pops light. Let there be light, which is exactly like this concept of the dolphins, the studies that have already been done and documented, showing that not only do dolphins play with bubble rings underwater, but they actually sonically create such heat in these bubble rings that literally they start to glow. Light comes out. The temperature approaches 5,000 degrees, which is just short of what the sun's temperature is. So all the science now speaks to the truth about, or at least the fundamentals of the understanding. That's why I said yesterday, you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. So that's the labiatum, is the spoken words of sound that the Creator administers to create you right now. So given this understanding, you know, the concept of the genetics that the Rockefellers told us, that we have DNA, and I mentioned it yesterday, the fact that it's 3% of its function is in protein synthesis. 93% of its function, they call junk DNA, is sound and light signaling for intercellular communications and cellular upregulation. What is cellular upregulation? It means that sound and light signals are entering into the water within your Holy Spirit-filled temples, and because of the Tesla coils, those spiraling genetic sequences literally amplify, like you have a motor. You copper wire wound around the magnetic plates in your motor, increase the torque, the spin, the velocity, the horsepower of that engine. That's what the spiral does. It's a Tesla coil, increases the amplitude and power in the light and sound signals that the Creator is sending you out of the musical mathematical matrix that the religious world calls the kingdom of heaven. That is what's creating you right here, right now, in this quantum field. So Rockefeller wants you to sing praises to the genetic industrialists for the 3% of function of DNA, and we're supposed to give praise to our parents for taking on their traits. Well, that's still 3%. The fact is that, you know, your brown eyes, your blonde hair, you can thank your parents for it, yeah. 3% of thanks go to your parents. 93%, 94% thanks go to the Creator right here, right now. Recreating now, every instant, micro instant, recreating you. Now grasp that concept with faith and the creative technology of heartfelt, loving intention in prayer through the labiatum, the lips, and you can be free, maximally, completely, fully. There's nothing missing, nothing broken in the kingdom of heaven, said Yeshua, said Jesus. We were also told, seek ye first the kingdom of heaven. Then all else shall come to you. It's like the steps of the righteous are ordered. Right standing. When you're standing right, righteously in the kingdom of heaven, in the musical, mathematical matrix of divinity here right now to bless humanity maximally, there's nothing missing, nothing broken in it, and you're directed because it's not your problem. You've got no problems if you've got the covenant which you have. It's the Creator's problem. If you're a humble servant of the Creator and you're here to administer love and healing and blessings, then it's not your problem. Whatever problem you think you have, you give it to the Creator. That's what the Creator tells you in the Bible. He says, if you have faith, and you're a tither, it says, and the tithing really simply gets you into the concept of giving is receiving. It gets you out of your egoic scarcity consciousness to say, I can take my last dime or dollar and I can give it with full faith. Because that's the key that unlocks the door to the kingdom of heaven through which all is administered. And you've sought it, you're going to get blessed from it. The steps of the righteous are ordered. That's why all you need to do is pray with faith. And now the Creator administers the covenant, which relates to the ark of the covenant, which is love. That drum plays in love. In 528, what is an ark? It's the part of a circle. What's a circle? It's the sacred geometry of everything in the universe. Why aren't the planets square? Because they didn't go to school with Bill Gates. Everything is circular. The electrons, the protons, the neutrons, the cells, the nuclei, all of that. The resonance frequency, cymatic energy, effects of sound on water shows you the circularities being created from sound. So you suddenly realize this is where salvation lies. That's the big choice. It's going to take, and that's why I said yesterday, I'll pray for those who have no faith or those who don't believe that there's a greater power. Because literally, to have the full measure of prosperity in all ways, that's what you need. Ark of the covenant. Ark, part of that circle. It's got the sacred geometry of that spin. Covenant, what's a covenant? A covenant is a contract. Everything that you're doing on planet Earth, those who control the yellow submarines have created this judicial system based on contractual law. It's all contracts. In fact, debt is sin, if you really get down to it. That's why Yeshua was so upset, the money changers at the temple. Because debt is enslaving. It separates you from this concept that I can have faith and trust in the Creator and miraculously manifest things like you've been already experiencing, like little prayers and big miracles and little ones like have been happening, manifesting synchronously in your lives. How did that happen? Happened the way I'm telling you. Mathematically, musically, energetically. So you begin to realize now this concept where we have the power within us, the glory and the power of the Creator within us to serve optimally, to recreate this planet in the image of what we now absolutely are certain about. There's got to be a better way than where we are right now. So, ut, re, mi, fa, sol, la, labiatum, the lips. Again, why the lips? Because if in the beginning the Creator created out of water, through the spoken word, which is sound, then He would have blessed you and I, just like you as parents want to bless your children. You would never hold back from your children the utensils and the tools that they need to go to school and come home, blessing you with their creativity. In fact, as parents, don't we long for just basically two things? Our children to prosper and be blessed and have creative talents expressed and show us the creations that they've created. We take pride and joy in those, don't we? And the next thing, the only other thing that we really long for that makes our life and parenting worth it all is them finally coming home at some point in time and looking at us and say, Mom, I love you. Thank you so much. Or Dad, thank you so much for being part of my life and giving me all this knowledge and all these blessings. Thank you so much. That's what makes a life fulfilled as a parent. Now, you know you would do that. You think your Creator, who's designed this incredible universe and this miracle of a body designed to perfection beyond the reaches of the wildest imagination, you think that that Creator would send you to school on planet Earth here any less empowered? Of course not. And just like that, all the Creator really wants from us is to show something that we've created something, not destroyed something. And that at some point in time, say, hey, Creator, thank you so much for all the blessings that you give me. You know, that's a routine that I do. That's what King David did. He sang those praises, wrote the book of Psalms, totally in love with the Creator. That's how I am. I am totally in love with the Creator. And the Creator's in me and in you. And we are the solution to the problems that we face, not just in our own lives, but in this whole world. So this whole concept of praying, sending out the frequency vibrations into this musical, mathematical matrix kingdom of heaven, that what goes around comes around, that pure faith and trust can move mountains, shall go out and come back to you and bless you, not additionally. Creator never adds, subtracts, always multiplies. It shall come back to you multiplied. And for those of you who have been engaged in spiritual evolution and consciousness raising and perfecting yourselves and looking for better ways of being, then you've noticed that there has been an exponential increase in the synchronicities and the miracles of your own lives. And again, we're looking at a spiral that has been going like this, and it's mathematically controlled, and it's exponentially hastening. So if you didn't think you were prepared for the fact that the viruses have been now loosed and you've got maybe 4 months before the big one, they declare hits, and you've got maybe another 3 or so years before 2012, and I don't know if I told you this. Did I tell you? Yeah, I did. I told you this already about what that fellow said to me doing the 42-month Revelation 13:5 analysis. That assuming the Bible, and those cosmologists are accurate, you have maybe 3 months to get yourself into your light body. But it's not hard, and don't worry about it. Because now you have understood the 2 fundamentals that you need. You need faith and trust. And you need to have this concept of how to use your creative technology called prayer. So I think I'm going to end this now by just sharing with you. It has been a total privilege for me to be here and share these wonderful blessings. I'm going to ask you to pray for my Macintosh computer. I really do need that. I need that to administer Live H2O, Concert for Living Water. It'd be great for me to write all of the like 80 or 90 staff people worldwide saying, guess what happened? I can't work on Live H2O because water drenched my computer, you know. And I'll just, oh yeah, you can hear the tuning fork, yeah. We'll end with that one, I guess. All right, let's do it. Let's do it now. And then I'll just, I'll share one last little bit, and then we'll call it quits for the night. How am I doing for time? I've got perfect. Oh, okay. Thank you. Okay, perfect timing. We're ending right on time. Okay, so we'll do this 3 times. Everything you should be doing from now on should be in 3, 6s, and 9s. It doesn't matter whether it's brushing your teeth or whether it's taking gulps of water, whatever. 3 6s and 9s, and 8s are also very, very special. Well, I think what we're going to do for the Concert for the Living Water is chant the Ah. It's basically Ah, A-H, which is Yah, it's like Prana or Yahovah. It's that basic sound energy that most people in the world do not find offensive and has a resonance energy to it that is part of the divine frequency. And this is 528, and let's just do a chant. First of all, check in with yourselves right now. Check into your bodies and your experience and feel currently where your level of energy is and sensitivity towards spirituality. And just see if there's any change that happens after you sing and chant with me this frequency. Do it again. So that's a nice blessing. Do you like that? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So I really seriously, I want to thank you so much for being here tonight. The fact that you're here means that you have done a lot of work to be part of this global healing and this family torum that brings truth as well as eternal sustenance to the forefront, the limelight, as well as our own lives. It means that I seriously honor you, I thank you, and I bless you. I pray that you and I will all join our voices just like we did on Sunday the 21st. Please check out, if you haven't done it already, liveh2o.tv. We are broadcasting currently. We're looking for 1,440 stations, in other words, channel players. So if you have anybody that has a website, there's a free embed code for putting that website on, or that player on your website. Then you can join us even through your own website if you're at home. Ideally, you would want to be with friends because it's going to be a very, very special blessing energetically. You might want to do some fasting. You certainly want to do anything that you can do to purify your bodies and get the resonance energy up. So be careful what you choose to do. And the best ways, literally, to do that is charged minerals and great water. Thank you so much. God bless you. Thanks a lot. Thank you. Thank you.